They say ignorance is bliss. I used to believe that. I thought trust meant never asking questions, never checking phones, never looking where you weren't supposed to look. But let me tell you something. Sometimes curiosity is the only thing that saves you from losing everything. My name is Natalie. I was 28, successful, and blindly in love. And this is the story of how one accidental click on a folder labeled 2024 taxes didn't just end my engagement. It exposed a massive lie, saved my business from being stolen, and turned me into the woman I was always afraid to be. 6 months ago, I was living the Seattle dream. I had a loft in Capitol Hill, a golden retriever named Buster, and a fiancé who looked like he'd walked right out of a magazine. His name was Julian. Julian was a high-end real estate agent. You know the type: perfect suits, a winning smile, and the kind of charm that could sell ice in winter. I was a brand strategist. I helped small businesses find their voice. We were the power couple. We were planning a June wedding. It looked perfect from the outside. But the truth has a funny way of coming out when you least expect it. The cracks started on a Tuesday. Julian was in Chicago for a luxury housing summit. I was at home, stressing out. My laptop, which was 5 years old and overworked, suddenly froze. The screen went black. Panic set in immediately. I had a huge client deadline in 3 hours. Then I remembered Julian's iMac in the home office. He was weirdly private about his computer. He called it his command center. But he was 2,000 miles away. I figured, what's the harm? I booted it up. I knew his password. It was the date we met. A detail I used to think was sweet. Now, I realize it was just part of the act. I logged in, downloaded my files, and started working. Everything was fine. About an hour in, I needed to save a backup of my project locally. I opened his file manager to look for a generic folder. That's when I saw it. Buried inside a folder named System Logs, nested inside another folder called Old Receipts, was a folder titled Project Skylark 2024 Taxes. It was odd. Julian didn't have a project named Skylark. And why hide tax documents 4 layers deep? My intuition started ringing like an alarm bell. I shouldn't have clicked it. I should have finished my work, logged off, and stayed in my happy little bubble. But I clicked. It wasn't tax forms. The first thing I saw was a photo. It was Julian. And he was with a woman I knew very well. Sienna. Sienna was the interior designer Julian had been partnering with on his recent stagings. She was 24 and, according to Julian, just a kid trying to learn the ropes. I stared at the screen, unable to breathe. I clicked the next photo. Them in Chicago, at the conference he was currently at. Them at a dinner I paid for last month because Julian's card wasn't working. My hands were shaking. But then I noticed the other subfolders. The labels weren't romantic. They were corporate. Folder 1, Asset Transfer. Folder 2, Client Lists. Folder 3, The Takeover. I opened the takeover. It was a PDF business plan. A 50-page document detailing a new agency called Skylark Branding and Design. Founders, Julian Mercer and Sienna Cole. I started reading, and the shock turned into cold, hard realization. This wasn't just an affair. It was a scheme. Julian wasn't just seeing Sienna. He was building a company for her. A company that was a direct copy of my business. He had downloaded my client lists. He had copied my proprietary contract templates. He had my pricing models, my marketing strategy, and my entire portfolio. The plan was outlined in a timeline document. Phase 1, Secure Marriage License, grants legal access to spousal assets. Phase 2, Funnel Natalie's smaller clients to Sienna under the guise of subcontracting. Phase 3, Post-wedding. Merge Finance. Use Natalie's credit to secure a massive business loan for Skylark. Phase 4, Separation. Claim 50% of Natalie's existing agency, force a buyout, and leave her with nothing. I sat back in his chair, feeling dizzy. He was going to marry me just to rob me. He was going to stand at the altar, look me in the eye, say, "I do." And all the while he was planning to dismantle my life brick by brick so he and his girlfriend could have a jump start on their careers. I looked at the dates. This plan had been in motion for 8 months. The exact length of our engagement. I didn't scream. I didn't cry. I felt a strange calm settle over me. It was the calm of someone who finally sees the truth. I took out an external hard drive. I copied the entire folder. Then I copied his emails. I copied his bank statements, which showed he had been taking money from our wedding fund to pay for Sienna's rent. I took everything. Then I wiped the recent items list on his computer, so he'd never know I was there. I walked out of that office a different person. The Natalie who wanted a fairy tale was gone. The Natalie who was about to protect her future had just woken up. The next morning, I called my college roommate Sarah. Sarah is a corporate lawyer who deals with fraud cases every day. We met at a coffee shop. I showed her the drive. She looked at the documents, took a sip of her latte, and looked at me seriously. "Honey," she said, "he's not just cheating. This is conspiracy to commit fraud and theft of trade secrets. But we have to be smart. You can't confront him yet." "Why not?" I asked. "Because right now, this is just a plan on a hard drive. We need to let him walk into the trap. We need him to take a real step towards stealing your money or clients while we're watching. We need to make sure he can't deny it." So I went home, and I put on the performance of a lifetime. When Julian came back from Chicago, I greeted him warmly. I asked how the conference was. I watched him look me in the eye and lie without blinking. "It was exhausting, babe. Seminars all day. I missed you." "I missed you too," I said. And I meant it. I missed the man I thought he was. Over the next 3 weeks, Sarah and I set the stage. First, I moved the bulk of my savings into a protected trust he couldn't touch. Second, I created a honeypot. I created a fake folder on my own computer labeled VIP Client Contracts, 2025. Inside, I put fake contacts. I set up dummy email addresses that routed back to Sarah's law firm. I left my laptop open one night when I went to take a shower. When I came back, the cursor had moved. 2 days later, the dummy clients started getting emails from Skylark Branding, pitching them services and claiming I was retiring and endorsing this new agency. We caught him. He wasn't just planning it anymore. He was doing it. Then came the grand finale, the engagement party. It was set for that Saturday at Julian's family's lake house. His parents were wealthy, influential people who cared more about their image than anything else. His boss was going to be there. Half the real estate industry in Seattle was invited. It was the perfect stage. I wore an emerald green dress. Julian hated green. He said it clashed with the decor. I didn't care. I felt powerful. The party was in full swing. Music playing, people laughing. Julian was holding court near the fireplace, playing the role of the perfect fiancé. Sienna was there too. She had the nerve to show up as his colleague, wearing a designer dress, paid for, I knew, with money from our joint account. It was time for speeches. Julian's dad gave a toast. Then Julian took the mic. He launched into this speech about partnership and building a legacy. "Natalie is my rock," he said, smiling at me. "She's the foundation of everything I do." I walked up and gently took the microphone from him. I smiled. The room went quiet. "Thank you, Julian," I said, my voice steady. "That's funny you mention foundations. Because I've been thinking a lot about honesty lately." I pulled a remote out of my purse. I had arranged with the AV team to hook up my iPad to the main projection screen, telling them I had a sentimental slideshow prepared. I wanted to share a special project Julian has been working on. He's so modest, he won't tell you himself. I clicked the button. The massive screen behind us flickered to life. But it wasn't a montage of our vacation photos. It was the Skylark business plan. Phase 1, Secure Marriage License for Asset Access, appeared in giant, high-definition font. The room went dead silent. What is this? Julian whispered, his smile vanishing. I stepped away from him. This, I said to the crowd, is Julian's plan to take over my company, steal my clients, and use my credit to launch a business with his mistress. Click. The photo of Julian and Sienna in the Chicago hotel room popped up. Gasps erupted. Julian's mother dropped her glass. Natalie, stop. Julian reached for the remote, but I moved out of reach. And here, I continued, my voice clear and loud, are the bank transfers. $50,000 from our wedding fund, sent to Sienna Cole. I pointed to Sienna, who was trying to hide behind a plant. All eyes turned to her. She looked terrified. Julian, I turned to him. Those VIP clients you emailed last week? The ones you tried to steal? They were fake. They were routed directly to my attorney. Julian's face went pale. He looked like a ghost. You are currently under investigation for corporate fraud, I said loud enough for his boss, who was standing right there, to hear. Oh, and I spoke to your broker this morning. He's very interested in how you've been using company resources to build a competitor. You're crazy, Julian stammered, sweating. Babe, it's a joke, it's over, I said. The engagement is off. The wedding is canceled. And since I paid the deposit on this venue, I'm going to stay and enjoy the food. You and Sienna need to leave. Security, hired by me for this exact moment, stepped forward. Julian looked around the room. He saw his father's disappointment. He saw his boss typing furiously on his phone. He saw Sienna running for the exit. He looked at me one last time. There was no charm left. Just the look of a man who realized he played a game he couldn't win. He walked out with his head down. The fallout was huge. Within 48 hours, Julian was fired. His agency didn't want the liability of someone who steals intellectual property. In the business world, trust is everything, and his was gone. Sienna? She disappeared. The moment the money stopped and the legal warnings started, she vanished. As for me, I didn't just survive. I thrived. The story got out. Not the messy details, but the fact that I had uncovered a fraud ring targeting my business. My existing clients respected me for how I handled it. I gained 10 new contracts that month alone. But the best part wasn't the business success. It was a Tuesday night, 3 months later. I was in my new apartment, a place I picked out that I paid for. I was sitting on the floor, eating pizza with Sarah. My phone buzzed. It was a blocked number. I knew it was Julian. He'd been trying to call, begging for a settlement meeting. I looked at the phone. You gonna answer that? Sarah asked. I looked at my dog, Buster, sleeping on the rug. I looked at my laptop, free of secrets. I looked at my life, which was messy but completely, undeniably mine. Nope, I said. I blocked the number. I realized that night that Julian did me a favor. He tried to break me down to build himself up. But in doing so, he forced me to become stronger. He made me check the locks, upgrade the security, and realize exactly how much I was worth. I am not a stepping stone. I am the destination. And if you try to use me, you're going to lose. It's been a year now. I heard Julian moved to another state. He's working a regular sales job now. I don't really check up on him. I kept the folder, though. I kept it on a thumb drive in my safe. Not because I miss him, and not because I'm bitter. I keep it as a reminder. A reminder to trust my instincts. A reminder that when something feels wrong, when the file name doesn't match, when the story doesn't add up, you owe it to yourself to look. Society teaches us to be cool. To not be the suspicious partner who snoops. Forget that. Be the detective. Be the CEO of your own life. Because the only thing worse than finding a folder full of lies is never finding it at all and letting them write your story for you. I wrote my own ending. And let me tell you, it's a beautiful one.